Campaign 2020 is sponsored by Wisconsin Hospital Association, Quick Trip, Wisconsin Counties Association, Wisconsin Realtors Association, and Wisconsin Operating Engineers Local 139.
August Schutz of Caledonia is a Democratic candidate in the 62nd Assembly District. August, welcome to WisconsinEye.
Thank you for having me on today, Steve.
Well, just a first question. What do you consider your top 1 and 2 campaign issues, please?
My top issue is looking at our education system in the state of Wisconsin, between the inequalities from like Waukesha, Brookfield area, those schools compared to schools in my district like Racine Unified and those high schools, and seeing the gap between the performance of each of the students. And so I think that we need to take a look at that to make sure that we're not leaving behind any students and getting those students in the underperforming schools back on the same track with everyone else and providing a quality education for everyone in the state of Wisconsin. Second issue that I think is a big topic is gerrymandering in our state, fixing our district lines and being able to actually have a fair election rather than one party losing all statewide races and still controlling 63 out of the 99 seats. I don't think that's a very fair representation of our state. And so I think that we need to take a look at that and actually have, I do support Governor Evers having the council come in and construct the new maps going forward. And so we actually have fair maps in the next election.
Okay, thank you. Let's move to some other issues. We've been watching the debate over police reform play out nationally and in Kenosha over 3 or 4 months. The speaker's going to form a task force. The governor's got 9 bills. Senator Van Wanggaard, Republican, has got 7 or 8 bills, and the Black Caucus has its own bills. What, if any, policing reforms do you think should be enacted into law?
Well, one, I would like to see no knock warrants banned. I would also like to see officers not be able to use chokeholds. And then also one that I've really noticed, I went to school at the University of Minnesota. And so during my 4 years there, the Minneapolis Police Department is big in the city. And one thing that I've noticed is they don't really represent the diversity of the police department, didn't really represent the community that they were policing. And so I feel like that should be somewhat nationwide, where we should have police officers that actually live in the communities that they're patrolling, people that actually know what it's like to live in that district and to police it, rather than people coming in from different areas and trying to institute policies that work in those areas.
Okay, let's talk about the pandemic. Yesterday, the governor extended the statewide mask edict till November 21. Do you support the governor's actions?
Yes, 100%. Our CDC director for the United States, Robert Redfield, said that at this point, masks are more effective than a potential vaccine. And so it goes to show you that masks do work. And one thing that I was taught is to listen to science. Science is always right. And so if it says that masks are effective and masks work to stop the spread of COVID-19, I think we need to listen to scientists and actually have everyone wear their masks properly to make sure that we have it under control. Our state, we have a bunch of hotspots where right now, this last month, we've seen increases in multiple different cities in the state of Wisconsin. And so I think that we need to get that under control. And I think masks would be a perfect way to do it. So I do support Governor Evers' mask mandate extension.
The pandemic threatens that we would potentially collect less in state tax collections. If we collected, I'm making up a number, $1 billion less in tax collections, How would you make up that shortfall? Would you cut spending or would you raise taxes or fees?
I think we really got to look at it situation by situation. We got to see what programs, if we do decide to cut stuff, we got to see what we're cutting and make sure it's something that can be cut, not something that's vital to multiple communities throughout the state. And so I think that we need to look at our priorities to see what we should prioritize on when it comes to cutting stuff. And so, it's a situation by situation basis.
Hospitals have been on the front lines treating COVID-19 patients. We now, for the first time, have 500 COVID-19 patients being hospitalized in Wisconsin. If you're voting on the next state budget as a member of the legislature, should hospitals have an even greater priority than they may have in the current budget?
Yes, I think so. Some of our hospitals have been extremely hard hit by the pandemic, and I think that we need to put priority to get them the funding that they need to actually be able to bounce back from this. And so I do believe that hospitals deserve a higher priority.
About 2 weeks ago, one senator and one state representative introduced a bill that says if your organization has complied with COVID-19 protocols to protect patients, customers, or employees, you could not be sued over COVID. Is that a bill you could vote for if you were in the legislature?
At this current time, no. I think we got to look at it, like I said, situation by situation basis. We got to see, I guess there's really no foolproof way to make sure that COVID doesn't spread at a place. And so I think that it depends on if a business is doing the most that they can. And also, I don't like to see frivolous lawsuits back up our court system. And so it depends. Like I said, you got to look at it case by case.
States around Wisconsin, including Illinois, are legalizing recreational and medical marijuana. What's your position?
I am pro legalizing medical and recreational marijuana in the state of Wisconsin. To me, it's a no-brainer from an economic standpoint because we are spending our tax dollars locking people up for marijuana, which, to be honest, there's marijuana and alcohol are very similar. We need to, with one being so legal and being able to sell it everywhere, I think we need to look at having the other one just because you could stop spending our tax dollars incarcerating people, plus also gaining more revenue by taxing it and having it legalized. I mean, our southern border with Illinois and our northern border with Michigan both have it legalized. And so people can travel to both of those states, smoke weed legally, and come back to the state of Wisconsin and be criminalized for it. And so I think that we need to get our priorities straight and we need to stop locking people up for this and be able to start earning revenue for it.
Wisconsin has high property taxes, which is why for more than 20 years, school districts, local governments have lived with caps and limits on what they can levy in property taxes. If you're in the legislature voting on the next state budget, should those caps and limits on property tax levies be continued?
I think it's a local control issue. I was talking with someone on the village board in the town of Raymond where I live, and they said that they don't have the funding that they currently need for roads and other things in the village. And so I think that it's got to be a case by case basis. We got to look at if the city, village, town wants to do it. I believe that they should be able to do it and have the citizens in those areas vote on it.
Is it time to give those leaders of cities, villages, and towns other revenue sources? Democratic Representative Evan Goyke in Milwaukee has a bill. If a referendum passed, the city could levy a 0.5-cent sales tax. Time to give those local governments new options to reduce their reliance on property taxes?
Yep, just like the property tax caps, I believe that it should be local control. The people in those areas should have a say in it and they should be able to vote on it. And so I don't think that the state should overwatch that. I think it should be up to the municipality of if they want to decide to have a increase in the sales tax or other local issues.
Our gas tax is now 30.9 cents per gallon and hasn't been raised in 10 or 12 years. Last year, the governor wanted to raise it to stabilize how we pay for highways and bridges. Could you vote to raise the gas tax?
Yes, I would vote to index the gas tax for inflation. And this would be because our roads in the state of Wisconsin rank among the bottom 5 among U.S. states. They're just in horrible condition. That's one of the things that Scott Walker got antagonized was for his Scott holes. And so we've seen how bad our roads are. In Racine County, there's roads that are always being under repair. I think a month ago on one of the frontage roads, the road buckled and it turned into a ramp. And I think that, if we actually provided the funding that we need, we wouldn't be in that situation. And I was driving in downtown Milwaukee a couple of weeks ago, and it was like driving in a third world country. There's potholes everywhere. The roads were in the worst conditions. And so I think that we do need to look at a way to gain extra funding for our roads. And I've seen people talk about putting a toll system on our southern border with Illinois. And the Journal Sentinel came out and did a study a couple years ago that said, looked at possible ways to raise revenue for our roads. And one of those was a toll system. And they came out and said the toll systems are ineffective because they only capture 78 cents for every dollar that they should. And so a gas tax would go for everyone. And you get the people coming from Iowa, Michigan, Illinois, Minnesota, along with other U.S. states coming to Wisconsin. And all that money adds up, and that can be used to fix our roads and make sure that we actually have permanent fixes, not just Band-Aid fixes like we currently have.
If a local government or school board planned to approve a major public works project, should they have to give a preference to a Wisconsin business?
Yeah, I don't understand. I saw my opponent said, no, I don't understand why you wouldn't do that. Ultimately, those jobs or those projects create jobs, and those jobs create tax dollars for the state to bring in. I don't know why we would be awarding projects to other companies that are out of state just because we can gain more revenue by having an increase in more jobs for our state. And so I do think that we should prioritize Wisconsin companies for our projects.
And then finally, you just mentioned one difference between you and your opponent. Do you want to mention any others?
Yeah, I'd love to. So there's 2 candidates in this race. There's me, someone who's going to go out and fight every single day in Madison for the citizens in his district, someone that's going to actually stand up, someone that's going to be there for them in hard times. And then there's my opponent. One of the main reasons that I got into the election or got into the race was back in the spring election. I tried contacting my local, my representative and my state senator, and neither of them got back to me in 5 days. I had to call again. And I thought that was kind of pathetic considering that a pandemic was ravaging. There's high unemployment. Many are sick. Over 1,000 people are dead now, and they haven't done anything for it. They haven't worked in 150 days. And I think that we actually need a representative that stands up for the people in the 62nd and actually cares about its citizens. And so that's why I'm running. And yeah, that's the big difference between me and my opponent.
August Schutz of Caledonia is a Democrat running in the 62nd Assembly District. August, thank you very much for talking to WisconsinEye.
Thank you so much for having me.
Take care. Have a good day. Thank you.
Campaign 2020 is sponsored by Wisconsin Hospital Association, Quick Trip, Wisconsin Counties Association, Wisconsin Realtors Association, and Wisconsin Operating Engineers Local 139.